a minute to get organized here. We're passing out the questions to the folks backstage to the board because they will not be able to read very easily. The rest of you hopefully can see the questions on the whiteboard, and these are the two questions that the candidates have prepared. So I'm going to start with my opening remarks. My name is Susan Newton. Welcome to the question and answer part of the forum tonight. This room is for those who are living in Legislative District 44B. So hopefully that's all of you. Our two House of Representative candidates, John Applebaum, will introduce themselves to you. The format for the night is as follows. The candidates will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement. They will then have 2 minutes to respond to 2 prepared questions they've received in advance. And those questions are the questions on the sheet that you all received and that are on the whiteboard. Then they will answer the question of the Special Education Advisory Committee submitted. You will then have an opportunity to submit written questions for the candidates to answer on education issues. We're a little short of pieces of paper right now, but we're going to get these more to pass around. Paper and pencils are on the tables. Let us know if you need something to write. We have a question screener who can give your question to me. Question screener, reading the questions first, be sure you have education related. Okay. And the same question will be asked twice to be sure that it's understood. They will then hand me the questions. I'll read them to the candidates. The candidates will have 1 minute then to answer the questions that you all submit. We have a timekeeper, and the timekeeper will let the candidates know when their time is up. I ask the candidates, please end your remarks. And then at 8:30, a little over an hour, we'll end the question and answer period. The candidates will give their closing statements, and then we'll speak informally with the candidates until 9 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll draw the event to a close. All right. So, welcome to both your candidates. I'm going to call on, in alpha order, John Applebaum to speak first, and if you will please make your opening statement in 90 seconds.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. I'm John Applebaum, again the DFL nominee for state representative in District 44B. Before going any further, I just want to thank the Hopkins LAC and the groups working in partnership with it for putting on this forum and including me. I really cherish the opportunity to speak with you tonight. You know, this district means everything to me. I was born here, I was raised by our community. People here know me, my family, and our values. And many of these values were instilled in me by the excellent public education I received right here at Hopkins, at Tanglin Elementary, Hopkins North Junior High, Hopkins Senior High, and if there was a Hopkins University, I would have gone there too. Instead, I went to Vanderbilt and then the University of Minnesota Law School. I now am a practicing lawyer, I'm a small business owner, and most importantly, an engaged man, and my wonderful, understanding fiance is right here in the audience, as she always is. You know, I'm proud to be from here, and I'm running for state representative because I want Minnesota to be the best state in the country, and I believe that starts with improving our state government. And to me, that begins with having the strongest education system in the United States, which to me is the most important governmental function. I look forward to building upon the legacy of our area of legislators who are strong in education, like Senator Terry Bonhoff, Representative John Benson, and Representative Yvonne Seltzer. No one is more passionate or will work harder in your best interests than I will at the Capitol, because this is my community. Hopkins is my school. You can count on me, and I really look forward to earning your support and going to work for you at the legislature. Thank you.
Clear my throat here so I can talk. It's going to be a challenge. My name is Ryan Rudsick. I'm the Republican endorsed candidate running for 44B in this area. I'm a 33-year-old small business owner of a company, about 100 people. I have 2 children. I moved to this district for one primary reason, to make sure they have a top-notch education. And I am here to work hard for that. I want to build upon what Hopkins has done a great job of in the past. And I firmly believe that we all can do an even better job. So I'm here to work effortlessly to advance our education system and make sure that the people in our district have a bright future ahead of them. So thank you. I look forward, and I too, of course, thank my wife as well. I keep forgetting to mention my wife Molly and our two sons, Louie and Reggie. But it's a real honor to be sitting up here today. I look forward to discussing all this with you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to the prepared questions, and the first question is on the board. What strategies and investments do you support to ensure that all children enter kindergarten prepared to learn? And I'll call on Mr. Applebaum first.
Okay, well, I believe that education is the most important investment that our government can make. And in fact, it has proven to yield the greatest dividends. Recently, studies have shown that for every dollar we invest in early childhood education in particular, $16 is yielded in dividends, not just academically, but economically as well. And I believe that the Hopkins School District should be a model in our state with respect to the work it's done with the Ready for K program. You know, without the help from the legislature, the Hopkins Public School District created and fully funds this incredible program geared towards at-risk preschoolers. It's currently in existence at 3 of our elementary schools, starting with Al Smith, moving here as well to Ike, and also at Gatewood. We've always been at the forefront of innovation and collaboration with our youngest learners, and that's something I'd like to continue, not just at Hopkins, but really use as an example for our entire state. You know, families that are economically disadvantaged generally have high mobility, so it's essential that we have a statewide solution so that regardless where a child goes to school, they will be ready for kindergarten. I was lucky to benefit from the excellent public education I had here at Hopkins, and I believe that our students are lucky here today. But not everyone has that chance. We need to fund early childhood education for the entire state of Minnesota so every one of our youngest learners is put in a position to succeed. That's what I stand for.
I don't think we're going to have too many disagreements here. You know, I am very pleased to see that we passed all-day kindergarten. I think it was a step in the right direction. I am an admirer of the Ready for K program that Hopkins School has. I get the, you know, having 2 young children, I get the newsletter in the mail that basically notifies and helps guide young parents to make sure their children are ready. And I too, again, I agree completely that we do need to figure out a way to provide for all-day preschool, for preschool, so they're ready for kindergarten. I do believe, you know, a lot of this should be as well directed by the parents, but in addition, especially for those children that are at risk, it is very essential and critical that we make sure they're prepared and ready for kindergarten. So I need to look at the numbers and understand what that all means, but I'm in favor of increasing that access. Right now, I think there's only about 60 to 80 children in our school district that are that are under the Ready for K program. So it's very important to me broaden that to make sure that we have a well trained and learned preschoolers and ready for all the kindergarten. So that is my feeling. I will be able to
All right, the second question reads this way. Last year, the legislature funded all-day K and provided a 2% increase to the per-pupil formula allowance. However, on an inflation-adjusted basis, the actual purchasing power of the formula allowance has declined from $6,457 per pupil to $5,407 from 2004 to 2015, as measured in constant 2015 dollars. So going forward, do you think funding for public schools should be increased or not? And why or why not? And this time we'll go in reverse. We're going to call on Mr. Rutsky.
Great. I do agree with, I do believe there should be increase in funding for pupils. The current rate that we have, I don't believe is going to be sufficient enough long term, especially with other these programs. So I would be in favor of seeing it being tied to inflation, probably an unpopular position in my party, but I do believe we need to provide the best possible education for our children. And with that, unfortunately, funding is a critical aspect of it. And so I would like to see, but that said, I'd like to see there be areas that we can understand where we're misspending or we need to increase efficiencies and accountability. So I'd like to see that first before we automatically just start jumping and start increasing that funding. So I think we need to do it, we need to make sure it's planned out and well thought out so it's not being left. So that is my
You know, I think what this question is really asking is whether or not there is enough money for schools. And to me, that answer is no. Again, and I'm going to keep repeating myself because this is my top priority, and I believe the government's top priority, to provide all resources necessary so that students, educators, and administrators are put in the best position to succeed. Now, because schools are labor intensive, I think we need to recognize the unique costs and price pressures affecting public schools by using the implicit price deflator, IPD, as an inflator for our funding increases. This will provide a stable and predictable revenue stream for our schools so they can employ and implement the critical programs that our students need and can do so in a way that allows them to budget and appropriately plan their curriculum. You know, we also need to fully fund special education costs. Hopkins has an over $500,000 cross-subsidy to fund special education, and to me, that's unacceptable. Although running for state representative, I promise you that once elected, I will do everything in my power to encourage the federal government to live up to its promise made to us under the IDEA legislation, which has stated that the federal government is responsible for funding 40% of our special education funding. To date, they fund roughly 17%, and that leaves additional burdens on the state and, again, on our local school districts. That can't happen. Lastly, we have to ensure that schools with declining enrollment, like Hopkins has had over the past 10 years, are not unduly burdened. This leads to larger class sizes and a decrease in support services because there aren't enough teachers to provide for these students. Again, that's unacceptable. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure the schools and all their programs are fully funded to accomplish their objectives. There will be no unfunded mandates, and I will work day and night so that this gets done.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the question that was submitted to the LAC, the Special Education Advisory Committee, and this is also a 2-minute allowable answer. The question is, what role do you think the state of Minnesota has in ensuring full funding for special education? Mr. Rose. Oh, I'm sorry. You started first. So, Mr. Applebaum.
Okay.
So the question again, I'll read it again. What role do you think the state of Minnesota has in ensuring full funding for special education?
Now, again, children with special needs must be looked after not just by the state, but by the federal government, and when that's not enough, by the schools. Children with special needs are of utmost importance, not just to public schools here, but to our overall community, the economy, and the entire state of Minnesota. Again, there's a $500,000 cross-subsidy that exists, and again, that's unacceptable. As your state legislator, I will make sure that the state does its part to relieve the burden from our local schools in making up for the shortcomings of the Fed and the state, so that all children with special needs get the resources, attention, and incredible programs that have been created and implemented in this district and others, so that they are on a path to be successful.
Thank you. Mr. Rich?
Thank you again. Special education students absolutely need and deserve the best amount of education and care. it's an unfortunate situation being unfunded mandate, and I will work effortlessly with our federal legislators to make sure we can address and increase access and the resources needed to support special education program in Hopkins School District. But it's absolutely critical to work with federal legislators, and they understand the importance of taking care of those at-risk people that really deserve our attention and dedication.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll now move to questions submitted from the audience. And first question, and these will be 1 minute answers. The first is, do you believe that state funding should be spent on private school vouchers? Why or why not? I'll start with Mr. Woods.
I do not believe in that. I believe in a term we call opportunity scholarships, which would allow corporations and companies to be able to fund and help with scholarships. Through that, there would be tax credit incentives to make sure there's a reason why they would want to do that. But I do not directly support a voucher system that would take public money and put it directly to the private school.
I do not support school vouchers by any name or implementation, whether it's by companies or strictly using the voucher program. Again, I'm a product of public schools. Went to Tanglin, Hopkins North, Hopkins High School. Kate and I are fortunate enough to have children. They'll be going to the same schools. You know, I grew up in Minnetonka, was in the Wayzata School District, but open enrolled into Hopkins because of public schools and because of how strong Hopkins is. I will never vote for anything as your representative that will in any way weaken our public schools program, and that's what vouchers do.
Thank you. Okay, our next question. What is the most important thing our school system can do to prepare students to attain good jobs and to open their own businesses? Mr. Hopkins?
Well, I think the most important thing our schools can do to guide our students in a way that will be successful is providing the most comprehensive education that they can. And that means having fully funded programs, not having any unfunded mandates. And I think this question might be getting at a more high school level type response. And to me, I think that students can be successful so long as they're not going to be and get good jobs, so long as they're not under a mountain of debt. That means we have to make colleges more affordable. We have to make high school courses available that will allow students to earn college credit so they can pursue higher education without thinking of just being so burdened by their financial obligations that they can't pursue a career of their choice, they can't start companies, they can't get good jobs because they're worried about how expensive schools become. We have to do a better job of making colleges more affordable. I'm proud that the legislature recently extended college tuitions for Minskew and University of Minnesota. I will continue that.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson?
Every child is different and learn differently. They have different outcomes. We need to make sure that we provide the level of foundation that's needed so they can be successful later on in their lives. So I also support, making sure that our schools are well funded and making sure we minimize the debt that students get out of college in. But furthermore, I also want to support other vocational trades that they can be taught at school. I commend Senator Bonoff for her pipelines program that would allow students to be able to work, intern at companies and be able to get a broad sense of what they may want to do in life. So I think it's important that the earlier we can get to them to make them understand what they're capable of and what their outcome and potential is, it's very critical. So I support broadening that and It really just gets back to understanding that every child is different.
Do you believe that school districts should join health insurance pools in order to save costs? Mr. Ritz.
It's a great question. I believe that I think pooling of our resources and the employees should be able to have access to that. So I favor any initiative to be able to minimize insurance and healthcare costs.
Mr. Hopkins.
You know, I disagree. I think that individual school districts should have local control over these types of decisions, and requiring that school districts group in these pooled plans will result in winners and losers. And fortunately for our community, our schools, and Hopkins in particular, has done a great job of managing their healthcare expenses, and pooling will put them at a disadvantage, be bad for the Hopkins public school district, and so I do not support that.
Thank you. All right. As you likely know, Minnesota has no reciprocity with any other state, disallowing school administrators to easily hire or recruit teachers from other states. How do you plan to improve and widen the teacher pipeline, especially for out-of-state teachers?
Well, I believe our focus should be on Minnesota teachers, and that means making sure that all resources are provided so that the most talented and special individuals want to pursue careers in education. You know, no one goes into the profession of teaching for financial gain. So, at the same time, we have to make sure they're as fairly compensated as our society allows. And I don't think that making so many accommodations for out-of-state teachers to come into our schools and get jobs does anything to encourage our talented Minnesota teachers or aspiring teachers from wanting to continue in the profession, enter into it to begin with, or be successful at it. We have to focus on Minnesota teachers, what can help them be better, and what can encourage our most talented members of society to pursue careers in public education.
I believe teachers are should be incredibly admired in our society. They are day in and day out really pushing their lives to make sure we get a future out of us. I think we need more and better and as much teachers as we possibly can get, whether from in the state or outside the state. I'm also in favor of alternative licensure, which would provide for individuals to be able to become teachers and not have to be held to the stringent requirements we have in our state. So I just think we need to make sure we really educate, we create awareness, and we provide an arena that allows many of the top-notch people to get into the education system as possible.
Okay, our next question is, can you please offer your opinion on the teacher seniority system in Minnesota? Mr. Ritz.
I'm a little critical of the current tenure situation that teachers are allowed after 3 years. Again, getting back to, I believe we should have the best and brightest people in our education system. So I want to make sure that we do everything we can to provide excuse me, my throat's just killing me. To provide for to provide for teachers to be able to teach within our state.
Can you repeat the question, please? Well, sure. Again, as your state legislator, I will ensure that we provide all resources necessary so that the best and brightest people will want to pursue a career in public education. I was lucky to be a product of Hopkins schools. I have a former teacher in this room whom I still stay in contact with. And I'm confident that local control is the answer to dealing with this issue. I mean, who am I to say the best way to evaluate teachers? I think that teachers and administrators and students who have a say in the program are in the best position to do so, and do so in a way that will guide them for future success and encourage even more talented folks to want to become teachers and for the education system to grow even stronger.
All right, gentlemen, next question is, how would you decide eligibility for the pre-K programs according to Hopkins schools and elsewhere? Let's start with Mr. How would you decide who is eligible, what the eligibility for pre-K programming?
Well, it is my goal to fully fund pre-K for the entire state of Minnesota. So I believe that every child should be provided with the opportunity to experience a top-notch public education, which starts and is most critical at the early childhood education pre-K level. Again, it's the most important investment our government can make, our society can make, and so I believe that everyone should have the opportunity to do so.
Right?
I believe, again, that we need to make sure that we provide a level playing field, that everybody has access to pre-K, to preschool. And, currently, the way it's, we do qualify, we identify them as at-risk youth. And I do believe, pre-K is, preschool is something that we can absolutely create a level playing field for children who have the access that, to education, as well as the children who benefit. So, I want to try and do everything we can to figure out a way to provide that access for those children.
All right, our next question, we'll start with Mr. Rosick. As you know, Minnesota has great schools, but has one of the largest achievement gaps between white students and students of color. What do you recommend to narrow this achievement gap?
From my perspective, the achievement gap is about access to opportunity. And it's not just one solution, it's not a couple of solutions. There's a lot of different elements that we can do to create that, to narrow that gap. I applaud Hopkins School District. They've done a great job at minimizing that. We currently have the Choices Yours program, so we're bringing in students who are at risk and don't have necessarily access to the absolute best education. And it's getting at making sure you have the best possible schools, making sure you have the best possible teachers, to making sure we have mentors, making sure we have wraparound services. It's a combination of so many different things, and that'll make some marginal increases. And then in time, we hope that we'll be able to narrow that as much as possible. We owe it to our children to make sure we do that.
Well, eliminating the achievement gap is a big issue and one I intend to solve as your representative. It's not an easy solution, but it's one that I think can be done by employing a variety of different programs and strategies. First and foremost, funding pre-K for everybody. For the millionth time, and I'm going to keep saying it, it's the most important investment that we can make, not just in our youngest learners, but in our education system, in our society. And so it starts there. Early child, all-day kindergarten rather, was a tremendous step that is being implemented now, and I spoke with Principal Haybeisen at Penguin. We toured around the new facility, and it's going great. It saves the average family $2,300 a year, which is an additional bonus of having our youngest learners in school more when their brains are the most absorbent. And Dr. Hayreisen also talked about another interesting and innovative thing Hopkins is doing with non-cognitive learning, meaning teaching our youngest learners to respond to adversity, being persistent, grittiness, because they're going to have ups and downs, and that will help them be more successful too.
All right, our next question. Would you have supported the last in, first out teacher seniority system? I think that's what the question is, so I'm getting that here. And if so, why?
Again, tenure is a tricky system, and I'm going to reiterate that I think we should have local control for these types of issues. I mean, who knows their students, their teachers, and the administrators better than those truly with the stake in the game at the individual level. And so I would defer to them to decide what is the best mechanism for tenure. But certainly, the current system is not perfect, and there's a much better way to accomplish our goals in encouraging the best and brightest to pursue a career in public education.
I am not a fan of LIFO. I believe, last and first round, I believe that we need to have the brightest and best teachers in our educational system. And the way that it's currently structured, it really makes it very difficult to allow for that capacity. So I'm not a huge fan of it.
Okay, the next question. Do you think we should teach intelligent designs in our schools? Why or why not? Mr.
I do not believe we should. I think we should keep to the current mode of educating. And I'm not here to buck that trend. I believe if we can allow that, private schools, if they want to teach that. I may evolve in that position, but I currently do not believe that it should be done this way.
Thank you. Mr.
Well, I don't believe and will never believe that creationism should be taught as science in the public school classroom. I believe in science, and I believe in the separation of church and state, and while I am a person of faith, I don't believe that our public school kids should be learning about creationism. So I absolutely do not support.
Is that one of the same?
Excuse me?
Creationism and intelligent design are the same?
The question is intelligent design.
I do not support intelligent design. Is that okay?
Thank you. All right, next question. If you live within the Hopkins School District boundaries, will your children attend Hopkins Public Schools? Why or why not? Mr.
Of course. I grew up in this community. Hopkins Public Schools instilled in me many of the values of which have made me into the person I am today. I open enrolled in public schools from the Wayzata School District because of how terrific it was, because of the quality of teachers, and because of the types of things that Hopkins School graduates go on to accomplish after leaving high school. My kids will go to Hopkins Public Schools, and I look forward to going back to football games as a parent of a Hopkins Royal and cheering them on. So absolutely, I'm a Hopkins Royal all the way, and so will my children.
Thank you.
Absolutely. My wife went to Hopkins High School. She went to Tango Elementary as well. I have been completely and utterly impressed with the way the Hopkins schools runs, both from the district level and all the different schools in between. So I moved out here. The primary reason why I moved out here is because we wanted good education, good access to education. So I am as well excited to watch my Ramsey play hockey with the Hopkins at school, and watch Louis be a star kicker on the football team. I'm very excited for that, and look forward to it.
This next question deals with the arts and public education. What is your view on the role of the arts, such as music, visual arts, and theater, in public education, and what is their role in the success of the students?
I think that's one area that in our education system has kind of got lost over the years. I absolutely see the benefits of the arts culture, both in however many different mediums there are. It's a great way to express yourself. It's a great way to create, to increase creativity. And I will champion any efforts to try and make sure that's becoming more improved and there's more access to arts within our schools.
I think our schools and our community is lucky to have really strong arts and music programs. I'm still in touch with old teachers of mine from the Hopkins schools. I was perhaps the lousiest music student ever on account of my voice. I went to class and memorized my sheet music, but there's nothing more important to me than making sure that those involved with arts and music have all resources necessary for them to be successful. All students are different, their interests are different, and arts and music is an area that we must continue and improve upon so that we can continue to have a strong arts community here. And go back to that last question, I didn't mean to say that I'm going to have a kid that plays football. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever seen me play baseball or run, but I just meant to go in as a spectator. But regarding arts and music, I'm a supporter. I would love to see an increase for these programs, and I'm excited to provide for the same as your state representative.
Thank you. All right. About half the state budget goes to public education. If you had a choice between a tax cut or an education increase, which would you vote for, and why?
Education increase. I will say it again, there's nothing more important to me, and I believe nothing more important to our community and as a function of our government than providing for a strong public education system. There are unfunded mandates out there. Our early childhood education programs need to be fully funded. We can improve upon the work we're doing in K through 12 education. Special education is grossly underfunded, and so I would increase our spending in that area. Budgets reflect our priorities. Education is my #1 priority, and it should be treated as such. And that's how I will treat our budget as your representative.
I absolutely tend to agree with them. I think we need to understand what the tax cut would be and understand all the different components of that. But inherently, I feel the same way John does. There's certainly areas that need more funding. We need to do a better job, not just in this district, but statewide. Certainly statewide. There's other schools that absolutely need help for resources, and I will continue to work hard to make sure that is available. But I think we need to make sure we're doing pragmatic things that make sense around, and having these blanket statements. If you're going to have a tax cut, increased education, fair to just answer directly. But I will make every effort in my ability to make sure that we are increasing our funding for schools.
The next question is, how do you plan to improve the diversity of our teacher corps? Mr. Russell.
I talked a little bit before about alternative licensure. I believe that we need to make, I'm a firm believer in diversity. It broadens perspectives. Our school district especially, 48% of our students are from a multicultural background, 11% of them are immigrants. So it's very important that we make sure we broaden the perspective as well at the teacher level. As far as ways to do that, like I mentioned, there's alternative licensure. There's ways of promoting teaching within our society, and I think we need to do everything we absolutely can to make sure that we increase that mix and broaden that perspective for our students.
The demographics of the Hopkins School District are changing, and with estimated 46% of all students being non-white, I think it's very important that we have a group of teachers who, as closely as possible, can reflect that student body population. I'm not going to say that I strongly believe, scratch that because I got a camera on me, but diversity is important because that's the way of the world. That's what public schools is all about. It's about being surrounded by people that are different than you, that can teach you new perspectives on life, on society, on studies. And I think the teacher population should reflect diversity too. That's what's so wonderful about public schools. That's what I experienced. And I think it's important to continue to encourage all people to pursue public education careers.
Thank you. All right, the next question. What role do you think standards-based assessments should play in public schools in Minnesota?
Oh, well, I think that the grad test being abolished is a very positive thing. It's a new system is in pilot year this year, so we'll see how the results go. But I am firmly against any and all requirements that that really force teachers to teach to the test, is what I was meant to say. I mean, there's so much comprehensive learning that can be done, and I don't think it does teachers any good, nor does it do students any good to base a large part of their school year trying to pass some archaic test that in no way tells them anything about how successful they can be, not only as a student, but as a person as well. So I think all teach for the test type mechanisms and programs should be reconsidered and reworked in a way that can be beneficial to everyone involved.
Thank you.
I believe that students should have, there should be a certain standard, both students as well as teachers. I do believe, we're probably in a world, the one thing I hear meeting with a lot of teachers and administrators is, what's the one burdensome thing we deal with? It's testing. We're over-testing, it's clear. But it's not to say we can't test. We should have some amount of standards to make sure that both our teachers are teaching correctly and our students are learning all that they should and they're at the level that they should be at. So I am in favor of making sure we have responsible testing. Currently, there's a variety of different programs that we are part of, whether it's QCOM for teachers or the MCA, I believe, firmly we should be part of the MAD program testing. So there's a lot of different things we can do. We need to make sure it's the right thing and it's able to measure the actual level of what the performance
Thanks very much. Looks like we've come to the end of the questions. Does anybody else like to submit a written question? Okay, hopefully we've gotten your burning desires and questions answered, and so we'll move to the final closing statements. They'll each be 1 minute in length, and then we'll draw this portion to a close, and you'll have the chance to just come up and informally meet the candidates. So we'll start with you, Mr.
Thank you. Again, thank you so much for coming out this evening. It's so great to see so many people involved and care so much about our school system and the future of our children. I am running as state legislator for that very reason. I want to make sure we have a bright future. I want to make sure our children have access to good quality education and that we are the brightest and best in our state as well as our district. and I'll do everything I can to make sure I work towards that. I have 2 young children. I adamantly care about the way that they are taught. I want to make sure your children have access to the education that they deserve. So I hope that you will consider me. If you have any questions, I'd love to talk to you after this, and thank you again so much for your time.
Well, again, the most important role of our government is to provide for a strong and equitable public education system. The same public education system that I benefited from here at Hopkins, from Tanglin, Hopkins North, Hopkins High School. That's my #1 priority in the legislature, to ensure that we have the finest public education system in the country. And tonight and throughout the campaign, I presented some ideas on how this can happen, from fully funding early childhood education, or at the very least, implementing an expansion of the Ready for K program so at-risk students get the assistance they need. Early childhood education is just one measure. All-day kindergarten is another that saves families $2,300 a year and has proven already to be a successful program which was done with the DFL legislature. Special education funding must also be properly provided for, and that's another thing that I will accomplish. I will never borrow money from schools. I'm not going to cut funding. I'm the education candidate in this race,
Thank you.
and I look forward to earning your support. Thank you.
All right. Please join me in thanking these candidates for And I thank all of you in the community for coming and participating in the democratic process tonight. I hope that you will share what you've heard tonight with your friends and neighbors. And we look forward to having you participate further in the legislative action commission events. Please feel free to come forward and introduce yourselves to the candidates and to pursue.
Don't be bashful.
All right? Thank you all.